Well, friends, are you thinking about creating a business that will give you freedom, financial independence, respect and recognition of other people, and most importantly, self-respect? Well, that's a good idea. And most importantly, it is feasible, regardless of who you are now. Many successful businessmen used to be, as they say, nobody. But thanks to working in a certain direction, they eventually came to success and became those whom many now envy. It's not difficult to create a business, believe me. You just need to tune your brain to the right wave to start doing other things, and not those that you are used to doing. Business and employment are two completely different worlds. Working for someone, you mostly move along a dead-end path. Employment is a road to nowhere, in old age, poverty, illness, humiliation, uselessness, loneliness. And by working for yourself, you create your own destiny, make your own life the way you want it to be. And so people who do business are often very different from people who are employed. And I think they differ for the better. A lot has been said and written about how to become a successful businessman. Which is not surprising, because everyone who has succeeded at least a little in business has their own recipe for success. All businessmen have their own experience, their own path in life, their own vision of what and how to do in order to achieve positive results in a particular business. In this article, one will tell you about my experience of starting a business. I will tell you my story of how I joined the Businessmen's Club and achieved, in what I think, quite good results in this matter. I am completely satisfied with my success. Not only that, I know what to do next to make my life even better. And who knows, maybe it's my experience of success in business that will help you climb the ladder of success to the height that will make you a happy person. In any case, it will not be superfluous for you. How to start your own business. This is perhaps the most important issue for most business starters. They want to know where and how to start their business. And starting correctly is very important, because a person's idea of business will depend on it. If a person fails, he may never meddle in business again, considering it the lot of the elite. And if everything goes well, then the person will get involved in this matter and over time will acquire the qualities necessary for success in business. So it's important, very, very important, to understand what's most important in business. And this is the main thing to start with. But before you find and understand this main thing, you need to decide what you would like to do. This is also a very important point in business, which many people do not pay due attention to. Therefore, many of their endeavors fail. People, when talking about business, usually focus on money and say that they would like to do what brings in the most money. In my opinion, this is a monstrous mistake. On the one hand, there are people who are motivated by money and can work for it day and night until they achieve the desired result. But there are few such people. Basically, people are ready to do long and hard what they believe and what they love. And this is very important, to have patience and perseverance, because the business may not make money the first time in the way you need. You may encounter problems that you did not even suspect. And then only faith in your work and love for it will help you not to lose heart, not to give up and continue to do it until you have the first positive results. To do this, you need to choose a business for yourself that you could do even for free. You must become a fan of your cause. So don't think about money, think about something that is interesting to you, that you love or will love and in which you believe. This will be your first step. I'll tell you a little about myself to show you that this is exactly how I acted in my time. When I left work for business, I was faced with just such a choice, to do what brings money or what I like. At first I chose money, like most green guys who don't understand much about life. And so I quickly burned out, doing a business that only gave me money and nothing more. Even good reinforcements in the form of decent income did not help me persist in my activities, because I thought only about money, and not about what I was doing. And this has an extremely negative impact on the quality of work, which in turn leads to problems that harm the business. In the end, I realized that if things continue like this, I'll just go crazy. After all, I force myself to do what I don't want to do just to get money. And I want to do what I like to do, what I am dragging myself from and getting rewarded for it. So why should I break myself? Why should I torture myself? And if problems arise in business, will I have enough motivation to cope with them and not give up this whole business? Considering that I am an idealist, I am afraid that I am not ready to make too many sacrifices for the sake of money. This means that I need something else that will help me do my job no matter what. And this other is interest, love for what you do, the meaning of this matter in the end. That's how I started doing what I liked, and during this time I encountered a lot of different problems that I always successfully solved. Pay attention to your nature, maybe it's the same as mine. And you won't work just for money. In this case, choose a business you like, and not one for which you simply pay a lot. If you want to not only start a business, but also continue to do it, no matter what, you need to find something for yourself that you will be interested in doing, in which you will fall in love, no matter how much money it will bring you. I assure you that over time, any business can be brought to a very good profitability, as long as you believe in what you are doing and see in your business not only material benefits, but also meaning. Everyone who, on my advice, started their business this way, has achieved some success in their business. Only in one case can you fail: if you deceive yourself by choosing an activity not to your liking, but because of money. Even if you are an absolute materialist who is not interested in anything in life except money, this approach to business will be useful for you, because it will instill in you faith in success. You cannot help but succeed in something that is very important and valuable to you and which you are ready to do day and night. Have you ever wondered why people most often choose money as their main incentive to start a business? Why are they so obsessed with money, forgetting that business should not just be a cash cow, but also a pleasure? There are two reasons: greed and fear. Most often fear. Some people want to quickly satisfy their limitless desires by earning as much money as possible, while others are simply afraid that they will be left without money, that they will not be able to deal with their financial problems if they start doing what they love rather than profitable business. This fear harms them. Not only is it illusory, but it is also exaggerated many times over. It is characteristic of most people who are accustomed to the stability that their hired work gives them. They are used to feeding from the owner's hand, they are used to following other people's instructions at the snap of their fingers and receiving a bone for it. And then they are offered to run away into the forest, to freedom and feed themselves. Naturally, an unprepared person is afraid of this. So he wants a big pile of meat waiting for him in the forest, which he just needs to find, and then he can feed himself. That is, people want the business they take on to immediately begin to bring them a lot of money. Only in this case they are ready to believe in its necessity, usefulness, and truthfulness. But that doesn't happen. You can't enter the game with experienced players and start winning right away. Of course, newcomers will also have some success, but this doesn't happen, friends, to make a lot of money out of nothing at once, without having the necessary experience, knowledge, and a little luck. Therefore, before going into business, it is important to get rid of the fear of failure, lack of money, and problems. And you can do it exactly as I suggest, by choosing for yourself an interesting business, a business in need of utility, the success of which you believe. Then interest, love, faith, will cope with your fear and help you overcome any difficulties that are inevitable in any business. There is no big pile of meat in the forest. you don't need to look for anything. You need to learn to hunt, then you will not be lost in this world. Business is hunting, hunting for money. What to do then, after you have decided what you want to do? But after this, you need to find the most important thing that is in any business and thanks to which it generates income. Think about what unites all businesses, regardless of their nature and size. What is most important about them? Friends, any business is sales. What business you don't take, its main task is to sell. It is thanks to sales that the business makes a profit. And sales are in the vast majority of cases direct or indirect communication with people. So you need to learn how to communicate with people and make deals with them. That is, you need to learn to sell. What, to whom and how you will sell does not matter. The main thing is to accustom yourself to this matter. The ability to sell begins a business. The ability to sell is the ability to make money. Everything else, the ability to manage people, organize their work, create and develop a system, is secondary. Bill Gates did not immediately create his own company, which now produces products with virtually no his participation. First, he himself sold investors, essentially, an idea, a non-existent program, MS-DOS. It was only then that he built a system with many divisions that made him the richest man in the world for so many years. And so in any business, you can check for yourself. It all starts with sales. That is why the main product I sell on this website is dedicated to sales. It teaches you how to sell. I included in it knowledge that at one time helped me master sales skills and, thanks to them, create first offline and then online business. Now this knowledge helps other people start their journey in the business world. And I constantly improve them, monitoring all changes in sales. I remember when I first started doing business, I started selling my services. I realized that in this matter it is important to be able to make deals, so to speak, close people down, get them to give me their money and then want to cooperate with me again. Everything else is already cooperation within the framework of a concluded agreement, written or oral. The main thing is to sell something to other people. And first of all, in most types of business, you need to sell yourself to them so that they do not want to deal with someone else, but with you. This is what we have most important in business. This is the starting point for those who want to become a successful businessman. Teach to sell. Let's think about what could be difficult here. What's so difficult about sales? Usually, it is very difficult to adapt to the interests, desires and needs of different people, and even more difficult, to form these very interests, desires and needs. All people are different and despite having the same needs, each person has his own path to their satisfaction. That is why it is so difficult to create a universal business, which, provided there is no monopoly on anything, will be equally interesting to all consumers without exception. However, there are basic skills you need to learn, no matter what kind of business you are going to do. For example, tell me, what is the difference between selling Chinese slippers and selling securities? If you don't pay attention to the details, then there is no difference, both here and there. It is important for you to buy a cheaper product and then sell it at a higher price. But what do these two types of activities have in common? What they have in common is that the people to whom you will sell Chinese slippers or securities must want and be able to buy this product from you. This is the task you need to work on first. You may want to sell luxury furniture in some wilderness, and many people will want to buy this furniture. But they won't have the opportunity to do this, which means there's no point in creating such a business. What's the point of selling something that people can't buy? No amount of advertising will help here. If people don't have money, you won't have sales. On the other hand, you can offer people a cheap, but absolutely unnecessary product that they simply will not want to buy, despite its availability. Such a business will also be unsuccessful. It will not have the required number of sales that generate profit. Therefore, it is important to understand what, to whom and where you will sell when creating your business. But there is another side to selling, is the ability or even the art of creating needs in people and making them want, thanks to which you can sell anything and to anyone, provided that people have the opportunity to buy it from you. This, friends, is already the highest level of sales aerobatics. It's just sales magic. If you master the skill of suggestion, you can create any business and it will work for you. It is this moment, the ability to inspire, convince, create needs and form desires that I pay the lion's attention to in my main information product. It is not those companies that are thriving now that are selling people what they actually need, but those that are selling people what people want to have. And people want a fairy tale, which these same companies come up with. They sell people a fairy tale and it brings crazy amounts of money to companies. So, I repeat, to start doing business, you need to accustom yourself to sales, or more precisely, to the ability to make deals and, if possible, to the ability to convince, inspire, interest, encourage. You can start doing this at any time and anywhere, no matter your financial situation. You don't need initial capital, you don't need any advertising, you don't need anything. When you buy or find something to sell, you need to sell it to everyone. If you have no money for anything at all, sell your knowledge, skills, experience, sell everything you have. When you have at least some money, you can buy something with it, which you can then resell at a premium, and so on until you feel like a fish in water in this matter. This is what will make you a businessman, whose success will be assessed by the number of successfully concluded transactions. You can buy an item online for one price, and then convince other people, on or off the internet, to buy this item from you at a higher price. This way you will develop your entrepreneurial spirit, which can then be used in any type of business. Start small, simple, it's easiest. And then grow your business or create a new one to do more complex things that you remember you have to love to do no matter what. Business does not begin with your registration of an individual entrepreneur, LLC and the like, nonsense that you do not need. It doesn't start with an office, business cards, a bank account and other husks. Business starts from the moment you learn to make good deals and systematically do so. You can be a natural or legal person, you can register your activities, or you can work in the shadows, you can work with businesses or with end consumers. That's not what matters. What matters is how well you know how to negotiate with people, make deals with them, convince them to work with you and give you their money, in a word, sell. Do a good deal as an individual, then another, and then you'll see how well you're doing it. And if you do it well, you are a real entrepreneur. And then you can create a business system, register it and use it to engage in larger scale sales. I repeat once again, business begins with the ability to make deals. That is, from your ability to sell. Just get people to start taking money out of their pockets and giving it to you. Sell them anything, apples from your dacha, some things you can do with your own hands, or your skills and knowledge, in general, everything you have. And if you have nothing, then buy something and then resell it at a premium. Make some good deals, feel what business is, what its meaning is, what it smells like, what its nature is. And then develop this idea in any direction convenient for you. As you can see, I began to develop this idea on the internet. I sell knowledge, experience, problem solving. Move this way from simple to complex. Today you can sell some little things, and tomorrow you will grow to the point of selling luxury real estate, jewelry, securities, information, political ideas, and even faith in your God, as sectarians do. Your growth is not limited by anything. A good salesman can do anything. A good seller is a successful businessman. How to run a business. Now let's talk about how to run a business after you've already started doing it. This is also a very important point, which many aspiring businessmen and even experienced businessmen, as a rule, begin to think about only when certain problems arise in their business. And problems always arise, especially over time, when a business simply becomes outdated, irrelevant, and lags behind reality. Because business is not a money-making machine that can forever bring money and work without failures. Business is a living organism, I would even say, animated in its own way, because people stand behind it. And like any body, it can get sick, weaken, and even die. Therefore, it needs to be monitored, it needs to be developed, it needs to be taken care of. Then he will live long. And the business must live a long time, otherwise it will be difficult to call you a successful businessman if your business falls apart in a year or two. And this is exactly what happens to most businesses. So here's what I advise you to pay attention to. I've seen a lot of businesses, I've seen them from the inside. I've seen their life cycle, structure, organization, their spirit, so to speak. And I can tell you that business should be focused not only on today, but also on tomorrow, in order to always stay afloat. You cannot hope that your business, unchanged and unimproved, will always bring you good income. In general, speaking about running a business, about running it competently, you can discuss many different points on which its life and development depend. But I am absolutely sure that the most important point that should be paid attention to first in this matter is the future of business. Many businessmen live, as they say, one day at a time. Today things are going well, there are sales, money is dripping and okay. And what will happen next, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, in a year, in two, there is no need to think. Owners of such businesses prefer to solve problems as they arise, as a result of which they often encounter unpleasant surprises, which sometimes they have no idea what to do with. But any problem is easier to prevent than to solve when it has already arisen and developed. Or you need to prepare to solve it in order to have at least some kind of action plan for this or that case. But somehow it turns out that people don't think about it, they don't look far ahead. But it is necessary. So, speaking of doing business, I can tell you with complete confidence that you need to lead your business into the future. And for this you need to think about this very future. And the successful businessman will be the one who follows trends in the market, who analyzes all the changes taking place in the world, country, city, etc. in the niche in which he runs his business. He must plan the development of his business taking into account all the changes he observes. It is only narrow-minded people who can do the same thing all their lives. They will weave damn bast shoes until high technology leaves them without a piece of bread. People will begin to land on other planets, use nanotechnology to its fullest, use the neurone, and would-be businessmen will try to squeeze measly pennies out of their grandfather's business. You can't do business like that. It's not serious. With this approach to business, success will be temporary. And temporary success is quickly forgotten. So whatever you do, think about what your business will look like in a year, 2, 5 years, 10. For example, if today you sell Chinese rags, then set a goal, for example, to start selling real estate, financial or information products after some time. In general, move into the future, do not stand still. How to manage a business. And lastly, no successful businessman will become truly successful unless he learns to manage his business in such a way that he works most of the time without his participation. Businesses are created not only for the sake of money, but also in order to free up time to simply live, relax, study, travel, devote time to your family, children, in general, to enjoy life, and not constantly plow like hell. To achieve this, you need to delegate some powers, either to reliable people, or to machines and programs. I trust programs, computers, and machines more, so I decided to build a business on the network that would work with my minimal participation. Here on the network, if everything is set up correctly, the business will work most of the time on its own, automatically. In other activities, you need to look for people who will do part of the work that you, as a business owner, are currently doing yourself. There are some nuances here, we'll talk about them some other time, but the point is to save yourself from working for your business. You shouldn't work for the business should work for you. And business is a system. Therefore, in order for it to work with minimal participation from you, it needs to be configured. Finding reliable, responsible people who can be trusted with business is the process of such configuration. And I'll tell you that there are always reliable people. Another thing is that it is not always possible to interest them and attract them to your business. But we need to work on this. Otherwise, I worked for one person who himself tried to be a plug in every barrel and did not even think about entrusting anything to anyone in his business. As a result, this fool stuck around at work all day long, interfered with people's work, stuck his nose in everywhere, and eventually ruined his business. But this man was a collective farmer. He worked most of his life on a tractor, so he can be forgiven. But a serious person, a real businessman, must be able to trust people. Without this, it will not be successful. Either his business will stop developing, or he will simply burn out at work, trying to control everything and everyone. I'll tell you this, if your business cannot operate automatically, thanks to software or other technical means, then study psychology in order to have a good understanding of people and select such employees, such managers, to whom you can trust responsible work without any fear. Many entrepreneurs trust their business to relatives, assigning them to certain positions, because, as they believe, they can be trusted. But this is not always good, and in some cases very bad. You can't ask your relatives the way you can ask a stranger, and they often treat their responsibilities less responsibly, since they are not afraid of being left without work and without money. In general, this is a different story. But many businessmen trust their business to relatives because they see no alternative to it. They don't understand people, they don't have the necessary knowledge in this area, in the field of psychology, so a foreign soul is for them, darkness. If you learn to understand people by devoting a certain amount of time to this issue, then it will be possible to resolve the issue of shifting part of the work onto the shoulders of reliable people and partially retiring from work. I repeat, it is not you who should be hounding for your business, but your business who should be hounding for you. Only in this case can you consider yourself a successful businessman. Otherwise, you will be not much different from hired workers who are forced to work hard to avoid being left without a livelihood. Well, the last thing I want to tell you about success in business. Sometimes business is rivalry, competition, and sometimes war. And as in any war, there may be defeats in it that will be temporary, not final, if you do not give up. You may be knocked down, brought to your knees, deprived of everything or much, betrayed, framed, abandoned. It's hard to survive, it hits hard on self-esteem and self-confidence. But don't give up, don't give up. Keep fighting. Fight for your right to be free and financially independent, for your right to live as a human being and not as a beast. A successful businessman is always a fighter. It cannot be otherwise. And a fighter must be able to take a blow. He must be able to rise, no matter how many times he falls. Therefore, Develop fighting qualities in yourself. Develop character and fortitude in yourself. In business, you need to have iron eggs, because this is not a child's game. It is a struggle for resources, for a position in society, for the right to be a free and independent person. This is how you can become a successful businessman whose life can be envied. This is how I came to my success, which completely suits me. There are other strategies for creating and developing a business, including those in which people work very, very hard and earn a lot. They don't have time to relax, they don't have time for family, children, they don't trust their business to anyone but themselves. They live their business, spending a lot of time on it. Well, that's possible, but I don't like this life. Therefore, you can learn about such business success strategies from other people. Maybe their recipe for success will suit you better.